Well, good morning and welcome to the AM show. This beautiful Thursday morning. We're thanking God for life, thanking God for all the good things. How are you? Hope you're okay. Hope you had a good night's sleep and you're ready to face the day. My name is Enimoy Nimado and I'll be doing this with you until 9 a.m. So let's get into the issues this morning. This is what we'll be talking about. The Public Interest Accountability Committee has presented its semi-annual report on management and use of petroleum revenue from January to June 2021 to government. In December 2010, Ghana joined the League of Oil-Producing Countries, successfully attracting a number of oil exploration and production companies who have, in partnership with the GNPC, been at the forefront of petroleum production in the country. The build-up to the attainment of a decade of petroleum production was adversely affected, of course, by the outbreak of the COVID-19 in 2020. Growth was subdued. A lot of exploration companies halted their production and expansion plans here in Ghana. But with the introduction of the COVID-19 vaccines in the first half of 2021, global economic growth started to rebound, most restrictions gradually being eased and measures put in place to allow for work to continue. And here in Ghana, the economy began to show signs of recovery in the period under review. Now, the local petroleum industry witnessed some level of activities, albeit slow, and the anticipation for the oil-producing company to ramp up production and execute plans that were halted as a result of the pandemic also remains high. An increased production output is therefore expected to translate into more revenue needed to augment resources to manage the economy. We'll be talking about this as PIAC marks 10 years of existence. What are we doing with that money? How do we make it go far? We're going to do that. Also, something interesting came up in the budget. Now, government has been seeking to create about 1 million jobs to serve as an alternative for young entrepreneurs so that they have capital, technical support so they can launch and grow their own businesses. This initiative we know is called YouStart and will be overseen by the Ghana Enterprise Agency, and will, among other things, give district-level loans under 10,000 Ghana cedis after 2-3 months of training. There's also 50,000, there's 100,000, depending on, what your bracket is, where you are, and what you want to do. If you want to buy equipment, if you want to set up a factory. Interesting. Our guest this morning will be Kosi Yankee Aye. She's a CEO for the Ghana Enterprise Agency. So interesting conversations for entrepreneurs and also saving money for the economy. We'll also be talking about CSIR. They have an Actuate initiative. Telling you more about that. Don't go anywhere. The news is coming up next. But remember, the AM show is on until 9.
Hello, my name is Evans Mensah, and you can relive all the fun and excitement on Top Story, Newsnight, and of course, Ghana Connect via podcast. All you need to do is to log on to myjoyonline/podcast. Search for your favorite show and relive the moment. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
Good morning and welcome to the AM News. Now, in our very first story, if you don't want to pay the e-levy, don't use Momo. That's according to a former Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, Carlos Ahenkwa. In the view of the Tema West MP, the inclusion of the e-levy would cushion the government to facilitate its developmental projects. He argued that the protesters must seek a better appreciation of the implementation of the e-levy before protesting against it.
Going to pay a little bit of tax. I've made a certain generalization. Let me see if I can bring it out here. So when you're traveling from here to Kumasi, you go to Renyinem. On the railway line, the people selling grass cutters and all these bush meat. Even there are people, women selling snail in basket and so on. Let's say this woman selling snails sells them at 300 cedis per basket. In a month, he sells 10 of these boxes. That's 3,000 Ghana cedis. How many of us earn 3,000 Ghana cedis in our office here in Accra? But this woman doesn't pay any tax at all. Government is looking for a way for this woman to contribute something small to the kitty. At least she will send some momo to her hometown for them to pay someone for her. The guy who is selling grass cutter there will send something small to the hunter to buy bullets. Government will take 1.75% of that money. So it will give us the opportunity to make all these people pay a little bit of money.
And finally,
It is not a compulsory tax. If you don't do momo, you don't pay. So if you don't want to pay, don't do momo. It's simple.
But there's a drive. There's a digitalization drive.
What is the drive?
There's a drive for us to go cashless, and transactions is one topmost thing that government is looking at.
Yes.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is leading that drive.
Yes.
If people opt not to use the platform, as he's saying, that drive is dead.
But for your information, I can tell you that this is not going to make people, lose that drive. Honestly speaking, in 2008, when the communication top tax came into being, the same sentiment was expressed in this house. In fact, the honorable minority leader contended that if we implement the tax, it was going to reduce the subscription of mobile phones. And so it was detrimental to the economy and to the mobile telcos companies. Even our own former president, Joe Mahama, also contended that internet is going to be charged because they also buy credit.
Meanwhile, the opposition National Democratic Congress says it will use all means available to it to reject the introduction of e-levy and other measures they describe as killer in the 2022 budget. Speaking at a forum on the budget, which they call Awudie Budget, General Secretary of the party, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, said the NDC is not against taxation in principle, but they are against taxes that will deepen the burden of the ordinary Ghanaian.
Democracy is a system of representative government, but what makes it effective is accountability. You give your mandate to people to govern you, you give them power to tax you, but you reserve the power to also question them, hold them accountable for what use they are putting your power to, for what use they are putting your taxes to. So in any democracy where you abandon accountability, then that democracy ceases to be a proper democracy. And when you talk about accountability, largely you can say that MPP is in government. So they cannot hold themselves accountable unless somebody holds them. So we are at this first stage where we believe that the foundation of the budget is wrong. And we are prepared to deploy all the power you have given us. And that power is 137 MPs. We cannot have a bigger vote than that. And so that is why I'll commend our MPs that so far they have stood on the side of Ghanaians and have exercised that power fully. In fact, if I knew that it was permissible to infiltrate and vote, I would have descended from the public gallery to come and make the number 138.
Now, away from budget-related stories, Ghana's quest to reach low-carbon construction and affordable housing might never see the light of day, as a technology birthed 46 years ago is still struggling to gain attention. Love News investigation has revealed the tech block press used for molding laterite blocks has been abandoned. On Tech Thursday, Love FM's Kwesi Deborah looks at how Ghana could have taken advantage of this promising innovation.
So we are now putting the laterite into the machine, the molded machine. And you can see this bucket is our gauge bucket that we use. So when you see this bucket, we are using the purpose for the gauge. Then you add a few laterites with cement so that you have the machine will be filled to its capacity. My other counterpart is bringing the lever to me for compacting. So you can see I'll hold it like this and press it 3 times, then it's compact. After that, I'll give it to him back, lift it, then the molded block will be out. So lift it. As you can see, it's coming up. It's coming up. Then you are finished with your molded block. This is the way tech block is molded.
This machine is called Tech Block Press, designed at KNUST by the Center for Settlement Studies and the Department of Mechanical Engineering. And as you can see here, we have a copyright to the manual of the Tech Block, issued by the Ministry of Works and Housing in the year 1975. So in Kumasi, some of the areas where the buildings were constructed and which are still performing functionally after 50 years. And right here on campus, all the buildings that were constructed are still performing, for the past 50 years or more. And for many of you who are very familiar with even the university campus, those who are familiar with Katanga Hall, the structure behind which is normally called Shaba, is a typical example of a building, 33-seater hostel, which was built with this material and has been in perfect shape up till now. If you look back at the way our forefathers used this material to construct Atakpame and those buildings, there were a lot of problems with the structures, because of the way they built it, and that has more or less sort of created some impression in the minds of people that this is a cheap material. And so, when after a time the economy was improving and cement-based materials were now more in the system, people tend to look down on the material and saw it as an inferior quality. 1 bag of cement will normally produce about 100 blocks. So per our estimation, 1 block will be costing around 1 cedi 50 pesos to 2 cedis. We are of the feeling that with how far we came with the technology, if there was government policy to direct its use in the country, perhaps we could have solved many of the rural, especially rural issues related to housing, including even the issues about schools under trees, where we could have used this to build very nice pavilion for school children.
The GNPC Foundation has supported about 435 artisans from both Western and Western North regions to write this year's National Vocational Training Institute Certificate Examination under its Skilled Artisans Project. The project seeks to provide technical, material and financial resource to equip less privileged Ghanaian youth in various vocations. It's also aimed at making positive impacts in the socio-economic lives of the beneficiaries. Correspondent Natalia Kwanzaa has more in this report.
Some beneficiaries, the future would have been bleak for them had it not been this project. They have been speaking to Joy News.
When I completed school, I was selling and I heard of Asida Foundation, so I joined them. I learned makeup and now I'm doing makeup.
How is this going to help you in the future?
Yeah, it will help me.
Like, wow, and sometimes we feel buoyant, which is not to machines, customer, this year, yeah, I'm practicing. Yeah, you are born, maybe we shop and do them.
Into a young opportunity and Kawala.
Oh, because we need to
area school,
Media and Campaign Officer, the GNPC Foundation, Yao Sapon Ampoma, stressed that the GNPC Foundation was making sure that all Ghanaians benefited from the oil revenues by embarking on numerous initiatives to improve the people's living standard.
The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation initiated the Skilled Artisan Project, we call the SAP, to basically support artisans across Ghana to empower them. We understand that the oil money or the revenues generated from the oil activities need to benefit Ghanaians. And one of the ways that the corporation has decided to utilize these funds is to invest in artisans across Ghana. Currently, GNPC is supporting over 2,000 artisans across Ghana. 435 of them are in the Western and Western North regions.
The founder and chief executive officer of ASIDA Foundation, Dinah Ejay, who is partnering with the GNPC Foundation to implement the Skilled Artisan Project, was grateful to the foundation for the initiative. She appealed to the beneficiaries to ensure that their training also benefits their colleagues who could not get the opportunity to benefit from the project.
So we exams ni we are 1 week training. We training na start up machines obi ade kwa starting ejuma. Bibia obetimi dey start ejuma. Enye machine ko say bia we yetira yebeto ti ye ho niam nyina na ye dey amount. Say the be ya obetimi start ejuma. Opamade a omoma bibia nti bibia obetimi dey start ejuma bia no omde ban. Even see am no ka say ASIDA Foundation ye be a training complex apart wo de won say ye no ombese sua ade kakra kan wa ma omotumi akomenimi.
For Joy News, in Athalia Kwansa, Takrade.
Okay, so the Western North Regional Minister, Richard Obeng, has reiterated government's commitment to strengthen the local governance structure by providing the necessary logistical support to assembly members. The minister, during the presentation of some 272 motorcycles to assembly members of the 9 municipal and district assemblies in the Western North region, tasked the assembly members to support government in enhancing effective developmental projects in their various communities. In Natalia again.
150 horse per capacity motors are durable enough to support assembly members in the performance of their duties considering the various communities they serve and their routes.
The president believes that for people to profit from his government, we need to strengthen the structures at the local level. We need to build the confidence of members of the local government service and the civil service. The government of President Akufo-Addo has started well with them. And to also encourage those local government authorities, the assembly members who constitute that important structure. These logistical arrangements are put in place to make their work very easy.
Richard Obeng, however, cautioned the assembly members to be guided by the rules and regulations in using motorbikes on the road, citing he does not want the region to record more accidents because of the motorbikes given to the assembly members.
Accidents is something that we all pray against, and it is our hope that whoever becomes lucky to take possession of this would be minded that this is for service, and so they should be guided by that. At all the times they should observe the road rules and regulations. Once the rules and regulations are observed, I think we can all assure ourselves that we minimize the rate of accidents with the usage of these logistics.
The MCE for Seshiriaso, Louise Owusu Ejapon, on behalf of the 9 MMDCEs, thanked the President, NALAC Executive, and the Regional Minister for the timely delivery of the motorbikes.
This is something we are so grateful of, especially to His Excellency the President, the Regional Coordinating Council, and the NALAC for facilitating this logistics. That is going to go a long way to ease the challenges and the difficulties of our honorable assembly members. They are the link between the assembly and the various communities. And anything that is going to ease their movement, facilitate their work and everything is something we are so proud and grateful of. So we are thankful to the minister, we are thankful to the president for prioritizing these logistics to the assembly members. Previously, these logistics were coming at the tail end of Honorable Assembly Member Stadium. But if you look at the timing now, it's about midway their tenure. So definitely it's going to help them in their next.
Well, that's it for the AM News, but the show continues. Coming up next, Elton Robesh joining me for the newspaper review. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is still the AM show, and welcome to you if you're just tuning in. And we'll be doing this until 9 a.m. and we have some very interesting conversations for you this morning. But we're going to get into the newspapers, and Elton is joining me from across the road. Elton, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you for joining us. Yes, back on it again. So apparently you have a very interesting favorite song. Yeah, of course, up to mischief again.
I know,
yeah.
I know what's going on.
Oh, you do?
I know what is going on.
So are you going to tell us what your favorite
Well,
song
I'm a
is?
music person, so all genre, from cool to country music, R&B, high life. Once it's good, I go for it.
You go for it. So you don't have a favorite
I don't really
song?
have a favorite. I mean, once the music is good, I'll go for it.
Yeah, I
I'll
can
go for
definitely
it.
relate to that. Okay, well, Echo, there you go. Elton doesn't have a favorite song, but once the music is good, that's it. And it's about 16 days to Christmas.
To Christmas, yeah. The Hamatan is gradually coming in.
Yeah, and the traffic.
Giving you that feel. There's joy in the air. Everything appears to be settling in.
I can't wait for the Piccadilly biscuits to come. This year they've kept long, or is it just me that I haven't
Well,
seen?
maybe because they are waiting for the budget to be approved officially. And then they can get to it.
That's a good one. Before they start making the Piccadilly biscuit. No, unless we see Piccadilly, we know that it's already at Christmas. Anyway, let's get into the newspapers.
So we are back on it again. Let me start with the Ghanaian Times. Very interesting story on the front page. And it appears to be on all the front pages of the various newspapers that we have this morning. I will hand over power peacefully in 2025. And who is saying this? That's President Akufo-Addo. Pledges, challenges fellow West African leaders to do same. And same paper has Supreme Court affirms Opinion Abraham Adusei as head of Saviour Church Ghana Norway launch report on cause of piracy in Gulf of Guinea. Anti-Galamsey fight not dead, according to the Deputy Minister. But there are some very interesting stories. Page 3, lawmaker 6 others arrested for traffic offences at the airport, and one of them includes the Member of Parliament for Nhyira in the Ashanti region, Dr. Stephen Amoah. The story, according to the story, Dr. Stephen Amoah, a lawmaker, and 6 others have been arrested by the police for road traffic offences at airport in Accra on Tuesday. The Member of Parliament for Nhyira constituency and the others were said to have failed to comply with road traffic regulations, posing danger to other road users. The Director General of the Police Public Relations Office, ACP Kwesi Fori, disclosed this to the Ghanaian Times in Accra. ACP Fori said the police service was committed to ensure that lives and properties were safe. He said 2 days ago at around 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., the police mounted an operation around the airport bypass and arrested the drivers for traffic offences. Now, the latest on this is that those who were arrested were taken to court. The MP did not show up. I don't know whether because he was going to Parliament or he was leaving Parliament. It's unclear for now. But 4 of them were taken to court and they were fined 1,800 Ghana cedis. And then they were also signed a bond to be of good behavior for the next 3 months.
Okay.
Also, in the Ghanaian Times, 54 Nigerians repatriated for illegal entry into Ghana. A total of 54 Nigerians have been arrested and repatriated by the Bono East Regional Command of the Ghana Immigration Service yesterday. The Bono man in charge, Francis Ano, confirmed this to the media yesterday at Techman. Said they were made up of 52 males and 2 females, and they came into the country through illegal means, and they have been repatriated. 2 school children killed in road crash. According to the story, three school children have been killed after the vehicle conveying them home collided head-on with an alleged overtaking vehicle. And too many deaths on our road.
Too many.
From yesterday up to today. Yesterday we reported 13. And it's still counting. Yesterday I put a question, is this a pandemic or coronavirus?
Or coronavirus, exactly.
And I don't know what we are doing about. Now let's look at the main story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. And President Akufo-Addo has pledged to hand over power peacefully in 2025 in line with the country's democratic system that limit presidential terms to 2. He said he would not make any substantial modification to electoral laws in the last 6 months to the next election, nor be an impediment to the conduct of free, fair elections in the country. Speaking at the opening of the second Kofi Annan Peace and Security Forum in Accra yesterday, he rallied his fellow presidents in West Africa to also take their pledge as they continue to promote democracy and governance in their respective countries and the region at large. And there's a quote here that says that, I am pleased to reaffirm before you my unshakable belief in the principles of democratic accountability that continues and constitute the basic of good governance in our member states. So anyway, I guess this is a very, welcome news, even though I'm still trying to wrap my head around it as to the reason for this bold pronouncement, because,
It's like David asked you a question.
Yeah.
You're answering a question.
Exactly, because I in my life, I don't think this will ever happen, that we'll have a president who will say that I'm going to amend the constitution and go beyond the time limit.
2 years.
But in West Africa, it is becoming the norm. So yesterday at the program, the main issue on the table was that we are witnessing a reversal of democratic values on the continent because of the greed of some of our presidents. They've been in power, they still want to continue to be in power. That's what is giving rise to all manner of uprising, constitutional takeovers, and all that. Let's see how this goes. So that's your Ghanaian Times for today.
I mean, maybe that's why that came up, his way of, reassuring us that, when the time is due.
Of course.
You
have to step down.
I mean, he is Forbes Best African of the Year.
And he's taking that award today, later today, at the Jubilee House at 1:30
serious people, though. We are not. Oh, I'll go with you, Kra. You'll be going.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the Daily Graphic. WASSCE 2021 double track pioneer students excel. Interesting. That sounds. Anyway, let me read the details of that before I conclude. Initiative to support small-scale miners launched. Industrialization. Antidote to violence, according to the president. Okay, let's get into the paper proper. U.S. returns stolen artifacts to Mali. Gunmen torch bus, killing 30 passengers in Nigeria. And AU calls for end to Omicron travel curbs. And Africa seems to be taking quite almost like a punishment for Omicron.
Yes.
Seems to be a lot of travel bans. Okay, Scholz takes over from Merkel as German Chancellor.
After 16 years in office.
Yeah.
Finally bowing out.
Yeah. It's interesting. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, he was voted in by the German Parliament, where his three-party coalition has a substantial majority and was given a standing ovation. India defense boss and 12 others killed in helicopter crash. Pfizer BioNTech vaccine neutralizes Omicron. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so 3-shot course of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine is found to neutralize the new Omicron variant. Okay, that sounds good. So there's hope. Definitely hope for us. Ghana Real Estate Agency, New Dawn. Okay, adolescent groups exchange ideas on reproductive health. NDC courts public support for the rejection of the 2022 budget. It's very interesting. Yesterday, speaking to Edward Bauer and Ekwasefa, it's interesting the back and forth that is still going on, because it seems as though the budget has been accepted with the 7 modifications.
Right.
And then, what they're saying is, okay, now when we get to the committee level and all of that, then we'll start to negotiate the e-levy thing. So I don't really know how and NDC is courting public support for rejection because it seems to have moved on.
Yeah, we've moved on. In fact,
yesterday,
from what we monitored, the committees have started already considering the estimates, and hopefully today and tomorrow, some of the committees will present their report to the plenary for a decision to be taken. Now, what everybody is looking forward to is the appropriation.
Yeah.
Whether the appropriation will capture the e-levy at 1.75, or there may be a reduction or whatever. So the appropriation
we'll find out. But yesterday,
Honorable
Honorable Edward Bauer was telling us about the fact that in a lot of countries where they tried to implement the e-levy, so I think Uganda, Zambia also, they did it and then they had to stop.
They had it. In fact, the e-levy doesn't have a very good story in Africa.
No.
And Ghana is hoping to look at all the flaws and look at how best we can fix them as we seek to raise 6 billion Ghana cedis every year from e-levy.
I see, which hopefully won't be captured in the Auditor General's report as money that has been wasted. So ECG withdraws services in Krobo area over threats. Oh, okay, so President Akufo-Addo assures the nation, I'll hand over power. I don't know if there's any other alternative apart from handing over power.
There's absolutely none.
I mean, especially since power was handed over to you, you know. So, yeah, anyway, Ghana-Norway launches report on cost of piracy in Gulf of Guinea. ECOWAS Justice Ministers to create platform which will promote rule of law and security. Christmas New Year road safety campaign launched. Yeah, people get a little bit crazy when it comes when Christmas comes around. So 2021 WASSCE results released, 173 cancelled. Hey, every time I see the WASSCE results, remember when I wrote SSC? Hey, you were waiting for the results
to come in.
Jesus Christ of Nazareth. It was something else. It was something else. My dad went to collect it.
It looks like 2020 saw better results than we are seeing now.
You know what's funny? The results, at this point, I said the A1, C6, C7.
Well, in our time, it wasn't like that.
It was just A, B, C, D.
Yeah, it was A, B, C, D.
Yeah,
Excellent, good, or very good.
Or very bad. Yeah. That I will never forget that day in my life. My life ended temporarily. Construction of remand prisons underway. That's according to the Interior Minister. Let me just finish up. My husband and I are not controversial. That's according to Empress Gifty. Okay. So there's a scandal, Hobson Adoye. Okay, she married Hobson Adoye.
Yes.
They're faced with a scandal involving their decorator. And then it was resolved. And, they seem to have gained a reputation for being controversial. Ghana, when they say are controversial, I'm not even sure what it means, because some of the things that people define as controversial, controversy no do inside. Okay, let me just do sports and then I'll hand over to you. Sunyani used to stage demo for new stadium. Okay.
They don't want renovation, they want a new stadium.
They want a new one, yeah. Hockey, former stars reunite at Africa Tourney. Chief of Staff supports Ghana Blind Sports. Hazakas and Pemdakwa clash for the First Ladies Cup.
Sunyani is big, and I would think that instead of renovating the Sunyani Coronation Park, government should consider putting up a new stadium.
A new one.
Where you have some of the big clubs in the Bono East region, BA United, Bofokwa. They've been around for years. In fact, they can be compared to Asante Kotoko and Accra House of Folk. So Sunyani has outlived the Coronation Park, and I'm solely behind this drive for them to have
a new stadium.
A perfect stadium for Sunyani.
Well, the Ministry of Health receives 2.9 million more COVID-19 vaccine doses from the USA and Denmark, and 9 die in accidents at Sola. Preliminary investigation blames sleeping driver.
That's always been the case.
Yeah.
And sometimes you wonder who was watching the driver whilst he was asleep.
They were sleeping. The passengers were sleeping too. They were all tired.
So let's look at the business finder for today, Thursday. 10,300 direct, 21,000 indirect jobs created, according to the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. 6 community mining schemes already launched by the government are expected to create 10,300 direct and 21,000 indirect jobs. Now, the 6 schemes with more than 20 concessions were launched in Pahia in the Hunter West Municipality, Kwabri Nuba, in the Jomoro Municipality, Adukrom, in the Hafo region, Jakobu, Valedura, in Takwa, and the others. The 7th scheme is expected to be launched at Tepa in the Ashanti region. And according to the minister, this is all part of government's effort to ensure that those who've been taken out of the Galamsey pits do not go back, but rather are given other means of employment so that they can better their lives going forward. Again, President Akufo-Addo is talking about his desire to respect the constitutional terms. At yesterday's Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Conference that is currently underway here in Ghana. Ghana and Norway launched report on cause of piracy in Gulf of Guinea. It's a major threat. I mean, the warning is that if we don't deal with this, it will be difficult for some of these big ships to come to Ghana and indeed West Africa. So Ghana and Norway have stressed their commitment in ensuring a collective response to maritime security during their tenure on the UN Security Council. Remember that Ghana has a seat now for the UN Security Council. We have a voice for Africa. Ghana's Minister for National Security, Albert Kandapar, and Foreign Minister Andy Kem Hanifeld launched the Stable Sea Report on the cost of piracy of the Gulf of Guinea. Mr. Kandapar represented Ghana's Foreign Minister, Shirley Ayokobotwe. In January 2022, Ghana will take a seat on the United Nations Security Council for 2 years and will use her tenure to galvanize multilateral attention and action, including resolution and presidential statements to help address the situation. We are hoping that something progressive will come out of it. The last but one page, John Walker premieres Kenneth Graph 3 Awards the last month called December, and it is the last one for everything good in this country. In fact, I'm already enjoying the feel in the air
of Christmas.
Yes.
Are you going to buy a Christmas tree and all that?
I already have one in my home.
Oh wow!
I already have
really?
one in my home. Yeah.
I'm surprised. I didn't put you
home.
down as a Christmas tree kind of guy. Okay. Anyway, let's finish with the daily guide. 9 die in bus crash. Actually, why don't I just go straight to international and entertainment?
Yeah.
So Scholz takes over as German Chancellor. We've done that already. Ethiopia PM returns to the office from the front line. So you know the Ethiopian Prime Minister was on the battlefront. Yeah. And he's been there since last year.
And his being there has resulted in them pushing back the Tigrayans from some two communities they had captured.
Which is nice.
Very good.
I mean, I mean, maybe not safe.
The last time a certain president went on the battlefield, they don't come back. We are hoping that this time he will come back.
Well, he's back. He's back, and I'm not sure if is he going again. He said that the struggle isn't finished yet. We have areas that haven't been freed. So, anyway, nice to see somebody, leader hands-on. India's top general dies in helicopter crash. Indonesia volcano eruption. President Joko Widodo vows to rebuild as 34 people confirmed dead. Okay, Kwapin Polo appeals to court over her jail term. Sarkodie is Spotify's most streamed artist in Ghana. Congratulations.
That's good. That's a lot of dollars coming in.
A lot, yeah. Miss Ghana calls for countrywide support. The New York mayor-elect has left. He came to Ghana. Eric Adams made a historic visit to his roots in West Africa. When they say West Africa, it's like West Africa is a country.
It's just one country.
Okay. So that's it.
Maybe just a brief one. And we are all getting ready for the MPP National Delegates Conference in the Ashanti Regional Capital, and the federations have started. Ben Epson, who is Ghana's renowned pollster, says that Amir Kumfi is best to help the MPP win 2024. That's according to some group. Now, the chairmanship of the MPP is between Amir Kumfi, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, and Stephen Ntim, who will become a serial loser. The hope is that in 2024, his name will emerge as a winner, because he's been in and out of this race for as long as I can remember. But then, according to Dispatch, Amir Kumfi appears to have taken a comfortable lead. But let's wait and see how that's unfolds.
Okay, yeah, definitely. We'll see how that unfolds. Let's quickly run through myjoyonline.com. Just really quickly before we cross over and do the sports. myjoyonline.com coming up on your screens in a second. Okay, whilst we wait for that, the story about Aubameyang having problems with Arteta, which is quite unfortunate. I think he's a captain now, isn't he?
He is, and the thing is that the general consensus is that he's misfiring. Yeah, and some say that he's more interested in taking the £350,000 every week
than actually playing football.
Yeah.
Okay, myjoyonline.com. E-levy is not compulsory. If you don't want to pay, don't do Momo. I hate it when people who are in leadership or who are speak to Ghanaians like that. It's you're speaking down. It's not compulsory. If you don't want to pay it, don't do. We're having a conversation, you know. And if you're collecting tax, the tax is for our country.
Absolutely.
So we have a right to speak. I mean, it's so like I find it so insulting when leaders speak down on Ghanaians like that. And you shouldn't do that, Mr. Carlos Ahenkra. Honestly, really shouldn't do that. GOIL denies government's hand in latest fuel price review. Oh, that's interesting, because I think the Deputy Minister of Finance, I think he mentioned that the government actually asked GOIL to reduce.
Now there's confusion. The Deputy Minister is saying that at no point did government direct GOIL to reduce the prices.
So
now
GOIL out of their own...
The GPRT is saying that the GPRT's man says that he was at a meeting ahead that clear directive. Now there's no official statement from the presidency or government saying that GOIL should do that. So government can hide behind and say that we did not order GOIL to do that.
So GOIL should raise their prices?
GOIL says that we are a market leader, we are complying with the deregulation policy.
Because as soon as they did that, all the other ones also came down. So when you say we didn't say they should do it, so should they go back to 6.9 or 7?
It will still be at 6.7. But as far as official norm is concerned, there's no official directive.
I'm not convinced. Anyway, that's My Joy Online. If you like more details, please go check out My Joy Online. More business, entertainment, everything you need to know. Thank you very much, Elton, for joining us.
You're most welcome. Have a good day.
Yes, you too. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You come and boss us about the award ceremony.
I'll do that.
Yes, looking forward to that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, Muftar will be bringing us the sports. And right after that, we'll get into our conversations. We'll be talking to Piak. We'll also be talking to Kosi Yankee Aye about that money that is being put aside for YouStart. How can you access it? Sounds really good. Love to know all the details, and you can expect that we will give you that. This is the AM show. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, good morning. I am Muftar Nabila Ablai, and this is AM Sports. Coming up, we'll hear from the organizers of the First Ladies Cup, chaired by GOIL Chairman Kudjo Fiano, who has been speaking about the essence of the competition. And also, we'll talk about UEFA Champions League football. Is this an era for Barcelona, having dominated European football for about 17 years? They've been dropped to the Europa League competition. As well, we heard from Wilfred Kweku Osei, who contested for the position of president of the Ghana FA in 2019. He says he was targeted, and now an amateur has been voted president of the FA. Let's settle for the details of our stories, and we start with the first edition of the First Ladies Cup, which will come off this Friday as Azakes Ladies locked horns with Ampim Dakwa Ladies at the Accra Sports Stadium. The newly introduced competition, which is organized by the Ghana League Clubs Association, is in honor of the First Lady of the country, Rebecca Ekufuado. GOIL Chairman Kudjo Fiano is optimistic the competition will help close the gap between men's and women's football.
Secondly, Azakes Ladies and then Ampim Dakwa Ladies, they're all poised for action. Whatever logistical support we had to give them, those things have all been sorted out. I'm sure they received their specially branded jerseys for the event. They've received their appearance fee. So what is left now is to make sure that we get the field, the ambience, the stadium ready for the event that will kick off at 4 p.m. on Friday. The First Lady has confirmed her full participation, so we are ready to go.
What does GALCA seek to achieve at the end of this game?
It is not an issue of just playing a First Ladies Cup. We are coming out with, we've come out with a holistic program to help complement the efforts of the FA in trying to empower our women in football. They've been playing second fiddle to the men. We are not saying that they should be at par with the men, but we think that we should bridge the gap, that big gap between male and the female football. So that's what we're looking at, getting, helping to train more female coaches, helping to train more women football administrators. So these are part of the plans, and the First Lady has agreed to give us that leadership to enable us give a little bit more to our women who are playing football.
Is there any form of support coming from her as well?
A lot of support, even using her brand alone.
You cannot quantify that in monetary terms. Using the First Lady of the Republic to galvanize support for this project, it's a lot. So he's done a lot, and he should continue to do a lot for us.
Disqualified 2019 Ghana FA presidential candidate Wilfred Kweku Osei has accused the football governing body of targeting him not to contest the elections because he was the first choice of delegates. According to him, the elections committee of the GFA eliminated him with non-existent claims.
Having delivered the policy statement at Alisha, I was overwhelming favorite. There is no way anybody could have matched the stride that I had taken. So many speculations were going around. This guy cannot even carry his views across, blah, 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 here and there and whatnot. But after that delivery, they saw that no, something must be done to stop Wilfred Kweku Osei. Otherwise, he's the candidate. The BNI came out with a report, and it had Wilfred Kweku Osei in the lead. I visited most ministers here and there and whatnot. I said, what is so special about you? I said, I have traits that humbles me before all the constituents or the electorates. I will never, never raise myself above those who want me to be their leader.
Why were you targeted?
Because I have what it takes to reform Ghana football.
But reforming Ghana football should be in the best interest of everyone. So if you have what it takes to reform Ghana football, why would people target you?
Nabila, it's not everybody who would like to be an agent of change. Some people resist it. Others will torpedo it. They don't want good things to happen. I can sit here when a policy decision is taken at the Executive Council level. I can tell you whether it's a good decision or it's a bad decision. The project at the GFA is not for, let me say, amateurs. It's a project that must be tackled with the best of abilities. It's not a straightforward job. When we're there, Kwesi will tell you this is not an easy job. So I knew for a fact that whoever would take over from the normalization, there was job to be done, not leisure. It wasn't time for leisure.
Let's talk about 2023 Africa Games now. And the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Usif, has called on contractors to speed up works to ensure Ghana meets the deadline to host the 2023 Africa Games. The MP for Yagba Kubari constituency, who paid the engineers on site a visit, demands improvement on the work done so far.
My suggestions to you or appeal to you is that you need to increase your workforce, your machinery, so that concurrently the 4 foundations will be worked on. I'm very excited today, but I would have been more excited if I've seen that there are all the 4 areas have been worked on, like the foundation you are working. I would have been more excited. So I want you to assure us that per our next visit, those 4 areas will be taken care of.
We still have a lot of stories to talk about football, but we are going to talk about boxing now, where referee Judge Shadrach Akwa believes Richard Commey will defeat Vasily Lomachenko on December 11 if the Ghanaian boxer relies on his strengths. The 2 boxers go head-to-head in New York this weekend. There's more in this report.
Looking at the caliber of Lomachenko, I think, yes, if people should come to that conclusion, that is true. But nothing is too difficult for anybody on this earth. If he's trained well and he's conditioned himself with proper attention and everything, I think he can match him squarely.
Now, for you, what are the few things that you would want to see Richard Commey look out for as he goes into this rather tough fight?
He shouldn't underrate Lomachenko, because as being a world champion before, he also been a world champion before. I think they are all in a class of their own. So he should concentrate and take the instructions from what the coaches will tell him to do. That would be the best thing for him to do.
What kind of outcome are you looking at the strength of the two boxers?
I have watched Lomachenko trained, and I've watched Kombe also on the Facebook trade. I think they are all of equals. So I think what he can do is probably to put up his best, because Lomachenko is not a small boxer. He's also not a small boxer. He has to do his best, and I think if he's able to do that, then the odds goes with him.
These are the qualified teams to the last 16 of the UEFA Champions League: Manchester City, Liverpool, Ajax, Amsterdam, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Lille, Juventus, PSG, Atletico Madrid, Sporting Lisbon, Inter Milan, Benfica, Villarreal, RB Salzburg, and Chelsea. These are the teams that are in the last 16 of the UEFA Champions League. Chelsea are the defending champions. Barcelona, for the first time since 2000-2001, will not be participating in the last 16 of the UEFA Champions League after losing 3-0 to Bayern Munich, and this meant that they've dropped to the Europa competition. It's been a pleasure coming your way with AM Sports. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. The AM show continues right after this.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Okay, welcome back. Hope you enjoy the sports. And if you're a Barca fan, well, you have a few days to recover. That was just abysmal. Almost as bad as Hearts of Oak and Arsenal. Should choose to support better teams. Anyways, let's get into our first conversation of this morning. And the Public Interest Accountability Committee has presented its semi-annual report on management and use of petroleum revenues from January to June 2021 to the government. Now, in December 2010, Ghana joined the League of Oil Producing Countries, successfully attracted a number of oil exploration and production companies who have, in partnership with the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, been at the forefront of petroleum production in the country. The build-up to the attainment of a decade of petroleum production was adversely affected by the outbreak of the coronavirus disease in 2020. Growth was subdued. A lot of exploration companies halted their production and expansion plans in Ghana. Now, we've introduced the COVID-19 vaccines the first half of 2021. Global economic growth is starting to rebound, and most restrictions are gradually being eased, and measures are being put in place to allow for work to continue. In Ghana, the economy has begun to show signs of recovery in the period under review. We'll be talking about all of this as PIAC marks 10 years of existence. And this morning, I'm joined by Mr. Isaac Dramina. He is a coordinator, PIAC. Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Well, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the people of Ghana to whom the resource belongs. PIAC does not exist for itself. PIAC exists for the people of Ghana, and so we celebrate with the people of Ghana.
Okay, so it's been 10 years. You know, we've had oil, we've had good times. Let me just ask you this question. You know how a lot of arguments come up when we don't have enough money, or when we have shortfalls, and, you know, everybody asks, you know what, but we're getting more oil, we're getting more oil, we're getting more oil. What do you think about that argument that somehow, you know, all of this oil that we found, the fact that we have 3 sites as opposed to 1, which we started with, how do you feel about how much reliance we place on that sector?
Well, thank you once again. Well, it is expected the had found hopefully we see the price of the refined crude at the pump go down because we ourselves would be producing.
Hello, Isaac.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to just, if you can please reposition yourself a little bit. The internet connection wasn't great, so we actually haven't heard any of what you've said so far.
Okay. So please, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's clearer. So if you can please start for me, please.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. It's in service of the people of Ghana.
Indeed.
So, like I was saying, the big announcement was made in 2007. Ghana eventually, at last, had found oil and gas in commercial quantities, even though we started with only oil. And we were going to get revenue, big revenue that would help in economic development, building infrastructure. It was going to bring another impetus to the economy. So everybody was very high in expectation, even though the oil field then was just one, the Jubilee field. But preparations began towards production, and you know that usually it will take about 5 to 7 years to prepare very well, regulatory systems in place. Develop systems that will receive revenue, will lead to optimization of the benefits of the resource. Ghana shortened the circuit. We did 2007, 15th December, we've had our first oil pour. And to very cheap. $444 million in 2011, and it kept up until our best year in 2014, $978 million. And but as you know, the price of crude oil on the world market is very unstable by a whole lot of factors. And so in 2015 and 16 in particular, revenue fell very heavily. And the 978 we had in 2014, we had about over $300 million in 2015. And then even further, $200 million in 2016. So this kind of volatility is the reason behind PIAC's proposal and recommendation that government should be worried in its reliance on the revenue from crude oil and production and its activities. For example, education has been selected as a priority area.
Isaac, it looks like your well, either ways the internet is not great, so I'm losing you again. Not sure if you can hear me. Hello, Isaac. Okay, well, we're going to try and reconnect with Isaac, but let me just run you through some of these details. So we know that oil production from 2010 to 2020, so 10 years, the total amount of crude oil produced was 453,387,699 BBLS. Total petroleum receipts, so that's barrels, so 2011 to 2020, $6.55 billion. That's a lot of money. So that's okay. Now this is how the petroleum revenue was disbursed from 2011 to 2020. So the Ghana Heritage Fund got $585 million. The Ghana Stabilization Fund got $1.387 million. The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation got 2 billion actually. 2,003.83 million. So they got 30% of the revenue. And then annual budget funding amount was also about 2 billion, which is 39%. So the budget funding, and then GNPC got the lion's share of the petroleum revenue that we got over the past 10 years. And then the Ghana Stabilization Fund, and then, of course, the Ghana Heritage Fund. So this is how we've been spending our oil money over the past 10 years. You remember that a lot of conversations have come up about the fact that free SHS is possible, because of oil. And so, definitely we've seen some of the things that the oil money has done, but not all of it, maybe. We're still trying to connect to Isaac. I'm not sure if we have him online now. Isaac, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fantastic. I can hear you better now. So you were just talking to us about why the government shouldn't rely too strongly on oil revenue.
Yes. So I was saying that the current government selected education as a priority area, and it is under this priority area that we have the free senior high school funded from petroleum revenue. And in 2017, PIAC organized a technical roundtable on the funding of the free senior high school and the need for government to diversify the sources of funds for the program. The committee thinks that the program is a great idea, but because of the volatile nature of petroleum revenue, to rely on petroleum revenue as the source of funding for the program makes the program run at some appreciable risk, to the extent that if we have the situation we had in 2016 and 14, where in 1 year, 2014, we had petroleum revenue as much as $978 million. Then in 2016, we had as low as $250 million. Assume government had budgeted on the revenue for 2014 and had been optimistic that we have had 978. Reasonably, we can expect $1 billion the following year. And so budget for the free senior high school to support so many students, provide these facilities for schools and things like that, build these school blocks. And revenue drops to as low as $250 million. How will we make up for the difference, especially when over the period, the Ghana Stabilization Fund, which is supposed to cover up for gaps in revenue, has been cut and has been brought so low as we speak? The maximum balance that we can have on the Ghana Stabilization Fund is $100 million. So it makes it difficult for the Stabilization Fund to fulfill its raison d'etre, its primary purpose for being established. So these are the issues we are discussing when it comes to government's reliance on petroleum revenue as a source, the only source or the main source of funds for its programs and projects.
Right. I mean, one may ask that, okay, if the government doesn't rely on oil, then what is it going to rely on? I mean, already we're seeing the suggestion of the e-levy, which is 1.75%, tax on Ghanaians, and that's quite a hit to the pockets. But are we considering maybe expanding our oil fields so that we can, almost, as it were, rise to the challenge of providing that cushion for government, or are we kind of at a peak?
Well, thank you for the question. It's an interesting discussion to have, especially now. Now that we are talking about energy transition, especially in Europe, which has led to international oil companies from Europe and the U.S. Reduce their investments in Africa to the extent that some international oil companies operating in our waters, operating in our territories, have left We have ExxonMobil leaving and some others reducing their activities. I think in your intro, you mentioned that from the PIAC 2021 semi-annual report, coming from the effects of the pandemic, a lot of the companies are now beginning to go back to their obligations contained in their PAs and all that, in their POD. It is a discussion we should have so that we can exploit the resource for our own use, more so to reposition our national oil company, the Ghana National Oil Company, so that it has the technical, it has the technological, it has the financial muscle, it also has the human resource to be able to play the lead role of exploratory work in our territories to lead to discoveries that will lead to increased production, for government to have greater stake. Because as you look at the various petroleum agreements we have, even from Jubilee through to SGN, you see that Ghana's stake is not so much. And so what comes to government in terms of revenue based on the contract is not so much. So you're looking at GNPC being strengthened, repositioned, so that government stake grows and we make more revenue from oil and gas to support the economy.
It has always bothered me, Isaac, that in all of these negotiations and stuff, we seem as a government, as a people, to be getting relatively little revenue from, you know, these explorations and the drilling of oil and all of that. What exactly is the problem? Is it because we're not negotiating properly? Or I don't know. And how do we get to the point where we're actually, you know, really actualizing the full benefits, the full potential that these oil wells have to offer for us as a country?
Well, thank you. You know, to guide the spending of revenues from petroleum, the Petroleum Revenue Management Act was passed into law. It came to be. Now, the Act clearly stipulates how the revenue should be collected, assessed, collected, deposited into the Petroleum Holding Fund, allocated, disbursed, managed, invested.
Okay, no, I'm not even talking about what we do with the revenue. I'm talking about the fact that we actually don't get as much as we could in the first place from the contract negotiation.
At the contracting stage?
Yes, at the contracting stage.
Yes. Well, it is a conversation we should have as a nation. You know that exploratory work is very expensive. It's capital intensive, but it's also risky. So take an international oil company that comes to Ghana to do exploratory work in our waters, relying on seismic data. And you think a well that costs you about $50 million, $60 million. If you hit dry well, you go home with your debt. I mean, the government pays nothing, contributes nothing to what you have incurred in sinking the well, which ended up being dry. And if you make a find, that is when we begin to talk about the fiscal term. Assume that we get in the news that government has invested about $100 million in exploratory work in a field they consider to be promising. And they hit a dry well, so it means that $100 million has gone to waste. We didn't find anything. How would Ghanaians take it? So we should be ready to accept what comes with the risk of exploration. That if we don't make a find, it is like what we call in economics alternative use of money. The money we could have used to build infrastructure is what we have used for the exploratory work. So we should be ready to accept it, that we will take the risk. If we make a find, great, then we have a very big stake. If you don't make a find, we will accept to go with the cost that has come with it. It is a conversation we should have as a nation and agree to go in a particular way. If you are risk averse, then your returns will be low. If you take on risk, you will make more returns. These are basic principles in investment.
Okay. I mean, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So I think maybe we just feel like we're not yet at or in a space where we can take such a risk, especially if, you know, we don't know for sure what the benefits are going to be. But the vice chairman of PIAC is also joining us in this conversation, Nasser Alpha Mohammed. Good morning, sir. Welcome. Hello,
Good
Nasser.
morning.
Hi, good morning. Are you okay? You good?
Yes, I'm doing fine, please.
Awesome. Okay, so Isaac and I were just talking about revenue and the burden that the budget places on oil revenues and how the money is distributed and, you know, kind of moving from a place where we're not so dependent on...
I'm losing you a bit. I didn't hear much of that.
Okay, I was saying that, so Isaac and I were just talking about the revenue, oil revenue, and how dependent our budget seems to be on revenue that we're getting from oil for the government to be able to carry out, you know, projects, and how that's not always a good thing for us. So what are your thoughts on that? We're looking at the distribution of revenue. And the budget takes, I think it's the second largest, or possibly the largest actually, allocation of revenue from oil.
No, you know, since 2011,
Okay, it would seem like Mr. Mohammed's line is not great. So, Isaac, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so your line is definitely better. Okay,
yes,
so
I wanted to add this point to the point I made earlier.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Yes, so one point I want to add is that at the time we made a find in 2007, little was known about Ghana as a place where there was high probability of fine. Like, I mean, what we usually say in the industry is that Ghana was not known. So we didn't have the strength to negotiate for greater stake.
Okay.
So now our field, our territory has been de-risked to some extent. At least we have 3 fields that are operating. We have other finds that are yet to come on stream. So it means that there is greater assurance to investors that our field has high probability of a find if someone comes to invest. So it puts us in a better negotiation position to improve what we get in terms of percentages at the contracting stage. So that was the point I wanted to add to the point I earlier made.
Okay, that's a really good point, and it totally makes sense. You know, if we've been able to find 3, then chances are, you know, there's a 4th one, there's a 5th one, there's a 6th one, as opposed to when there was nothing at all. And I remember when we first found oil, it was a very, very exciting time for the nation, you know, to discover that, oh, you know, because it's always been Nigeria, you know, that we've kind of considered as, you know, the oil producing country. So it was really exciting. I remember many years ago, but really exciting. Anyway, so there was a committee that PIAC put together to give some recommendations to the Minister of Finance when it comes to the revenue use and how, you know, we're sharing that money, spending the money, and also the cap on the GSF, and then provisions with ABFA and GIF. Do you want to take us through some of the recommendations that the committee was able to come up with? Isaac, your line is not great. Can you reposition yourself for me?
Hello?
Hello?
Is it better now?
Not really. Maybe just move a little bit more. It's still breaking.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, let's give it a go and see.
Okay. So I wanted to find out if we were talking about our recommendations over the 10-year period for
Okay, you want us to find out if we're talking about your recommendations over the 10-year period or... Okay, unfortunately, I can't really hear Isaac. I know he's asking me a question, but it's difficult to hear him. We're going to try and reconnect. But if you're just tuning in, we're talking about PIAC and also the distribution of the money that we've made from oil over the past 10 years and some of the recommendations that a committee has put to the Minister of Finance concerning some of the oil-funded projects at the subnational level, and also the fact that the GSF has a cap of $100 million, if that's the best decision that we made, or whether that should be reviewed. So we're speaking to Isaac Jamna, who's a coordinator of PIAC, and Nasser Alpha Mohammed, who is a vice chairman of PIAC. At the moment, both of them, their lines seem to be quite bad, so we're not really able to get clear communication. Let me just, Isaac, are you there?
Yes, please, I am.
Okay, great. You were asking a question.
Yes. So you had asked for the recommendations the committee had made in its statutory report, and I wanted to declare whether you meant recommendations over the 10-year period or just for our latest report, the 2021 semi-annual report.
I mean, I think we can start with the most recent one. And then, you know, maybe extend into over the last 10 years with some of the recommendations that you feel are very urgent or priority.
Okay. Okay, so I think for the semi-annual report 2021, there are two main recommendations. You look through the report, there are others, but for the purpose of our discussion, I'll just focus on two. In the year 2019, the Supreme Court of Ghana made a decision that in computing the amount of money that is to be allocated to the District Assembly Common Fund, the petroleum revenue that is to be spent in the budget is 5% of that is to be added to the pot. So it means that petroleum revenue now becomes a contributor to the District Assembly Common Fund. Now, for the year 2021, in compliance with this decision of the Supreme Court, the Ministry of Finance allocated an amount of 129 million Ghana to be disbursed to the District Assembly Common Fund for distribution to the various metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies for various projects and programs. Now, the committee recommends that there should be guidelines to guide the spending of the petroleum revenue at the subnational or the district level, so that it will not be just part of the allocation and disbursement that is made to the DACF and spent at the assembly level with not as much accountability. So that PIAC will be able to continue its monitoring mandate that the PRMA has given it. So it should be clear that, let's say, an amount of 500,000, 200,000 has been given to, let's say, a Denton assembly, and that they are going to use that for, let's say, building a classroom block located at Frafraha, so that when you go to the assembly, they will be able to lead you to that specific project for you to inspect, for PIAC to be able to monitor and inspect that the petroleum revenue that went to the assembly has been used for this purpose, and there is clear evidence of the usage and the management of the revenue. So that is the recommendation the committee made. You know, the Petroleum Revenue Management Act is being reviewed by the government. So PIAC recommends that we should take advantage of the window of the review and make provisions in the Act to cover the spending of petroleum revenue at the subnational level. That is the first recommendation the committee made in the 2021 semi-annual report.
Okay.
The second recommendation is that we should grow the Ghana Stabilization Fund. The government should grow the Ghana Stabilization Fund to fulfill its primary mandate of helping to plug revenue gaps where there are if the revenue expected by government is not met, is not realized. What the committee found in its work in the first half of 2021 was that the quarterly ADFA, that's the amount of money to be spent in the budget from petroleum revenue for a particular quarter, was not met for the first quarter of the year. And so the government had to fall on the consolidated fund to support. It did not go to the stabilization fund, which should have been the right fund to have been calling upon support for the gap. And PIAC is recommending that the Ghana Stabilization Fund should be grown because the fund has been capped and now the balance is around $100 million. And it makes the fund not as strong to fulfill its primary mandate of helping to cover for expenditure gap as a result of revenue shortfall. So these were the two recommendations made by the committee in the 2021 semi-annual report.
Okay, are there any other recommendations from the 10 years that, but I feel like if there were, maybe you would have captured it in the annual report, but are there any other outstanding recommendations that maybe you feel that the government should pay more attention to?
Well, if you allow me, probably there are quite a number, but the first and the most important that I would like to highlight, I'm sure the Vice Chair may want to add up, is the fact that the default position of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act is that petroleum revenue spent in the budget should be guided by a long-term national development plan. That is the default position of the Act. But the Act also concedes that the process for putting together a long-term national development plan takes time. And so it provides in Section 21 that in the absence of a long-term national development plan, the Minister for Finance can select over a 3-year period not more than 4 priority areas out of the list provided in the Act for spending petroleum revenue.
Right.
For the past 10 years, Ghana does not have a long-term national development plan to guide the spending of petroleum revenue. And PIAC has made this recommendation repeatedly. As we mark 10 years, we continue to make that recommendation. We continue to reiterate that recommendation that a long-term national development plan should be developed by the nation to guide their spending so that selection of priority areas will not just be in line with party manifestos of government in power, but that it will be part of implementing a long-term national development plan that the nation as a whole has acceded to, has developed. So that is one key recommendation made over the 10-year period. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Isaac, for all of that, for educating us and for the recommendations and for helping us understand a little bit more why we are where we are. Congratulations to PIAC. We're looking forward to another 10 years of very, very successful work and oversight. So have a good day. Are you guys doing anything to celebrate?
Well, the celebration began way back in March. The president launched it, and we have since been undertaking a number of activities. But let me mention that one key activity we are undertaking is to engage the citizens of Ghana. We think that the 10th anniversary is not for fanfare. It's a time to reflect on how well we have done as a nation in managing the resource we have. So we have gone to the Northern Belt and engaged citizens there. We had a forum in Tamale for the 5 regions in the northern part. We've had such a forum in the Middle Belt, in the Brempa Assembly Hall in Kumasi for regions in the Middle Belt. We have also had a fora in the Kendi and Takrady for Central and Western regions. We've gone to Koforidua for Eastern. We've been to Ho for Uti and Volta. Today, we are having a forum for Greater Accra, and it is for citizens in Greater Accra to reflect on how well we have done. So we invite as many to come to the NAT Hall and join us, reflect on how well we have done as a nation in managing over $6.523 billion that has come to government over the 10-year period.
Okay, well, thank you. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Really appreciate your time. And that was Isaac Dramna, coordinator for PIAC. PIAC celebrating 10 years. And you can join them at the NAT Hall if you'd like more information on how the oil revenue has been spent and what the plans are. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, so much more for you here on the AM show. Don't go anywhere.
What's up, guys? My name is Sammy Forson, host of the Weekend City Show and Ignition right here on Joy 99.7 FM. Well, anytime you happen to be busy and you miss out on your favorite shows right here on Joy FM, here's what you can do. Log on to myjoyonline.com/podcast. Just go on there and you'll find all your shows on demand 24/7. There you can catch up. Remember, Joy FM remains your radio for discerning listeners.
So government is seeking to create about 1 million jobs to serve as an alternative for supporting young entrepreneurs to gain access to capital and technical support to launch and grow their own businesses. This initiative is dubbed YouStart. It's under the auspices of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, which will, among others, give district-level loans under 10,000 Ghana cedis after 2 to 3 months of training. So how will this work? I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I know I do. My guest this morning is Kosi Yankee Ayer. She is the CEO of the Ghana Enterprises Agency. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
So, I mean, like I was telling you just before we started, the YouStart program is, I think, one thing that everybody is quite excited about in the budget. You know, because over the past few months, there have been a lot of stories. You're going to the newspapers, people can't find jobs. You know, people don't have capital. People are struggling to get loans. You know, it's been tough. So we're excited about it. But before I get into the details, if it's okay, do you want to just take us through exactly what, YouStart is about? And then the link to the Ghana Enterprises Agency. I mean, the first is how come it's under, the Ghana Enterprises Agency? And then, what is it really about?
Sure. So thank you once again for having us here. The Ghana Enterprises Agency was specifically set up and mandated to really implement the Ghana National MSME policy and entrepreneurship policy.
Okay.
And the idea behind that was to build a strong entrepreneurial economy, to figure out how to build MSMEs to grow and to be sustainable, and most importantly, to provide resources to build the MSMEs.
Okay.
The idea, again, is also based on the premise that if 80% of your economy is MSMEs, then you need to pay close attention to them. And also that these MSMEs are the engine for growth of any nation.
Okay.
So a lot of work has been done in building this dynamic Ghana Enterprises Agency by government to really lead in the implementation support. The Youth Start program, which was in the budget through the Ministry of Finance, has been set up, and Ghana Enterprises Agency is an implementing partner for the program. It's one of the implementing partners.
Okay.
But the work that we seek to do, and what Youth Start has done, is that the government of Ghana has designed a budget which states that it's going to support an entrepreneurial nation, a sustainable entrepreneurial nation, and has put the youth at the heart of the budget.
Okay.
Besides that, it's also looked at what ways are we going to build the youth at a time where globally, and it's not a current phenomenon, but now there's a close emphasis on trying to ensure that jobs are created for the youth, trying to ensure that youth can also start their businesses. So there are two things. It's the starting businesses, creating employment, and also building a stronger economy.
Okay.
And so the Youth Start program really targets the youth to help them start businesses, create avenues for employment for other people, and supporting the economy's growth.
Okay.
And that's what we intend to do with the Youth Start.
Okay.
Now, Ghana Enterprises Agency comes in this capacity to build the youth, because we also have the avenues and we have the resources to assist to do that.
Okay.
We currently have 190 business advisory centers and 37 business resource centers across the nation. And over the years, we've been trying and working strongly to build the needed support to the youth, to MSMEs, and to all Ghanaians who do have businesses. As you're aware, there's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And the challenge is that a lot of youth, when they start businesses, don't have access to the resources. The financial institutions don't provide the opportunity for the youth to go in based on their criteria, and also because of what they've done fundamentally for a long time. And so this program is to create the opportunity for youth to get the resources and have access to tools and the needed capacity, so that they can also start and support the Ghanaian economy to grow bigger.
Okay, I mean, that sounds really good. I remember, I think it was two years ago or last year when I turned 38, I had a bit of a panic attack because I discovered that I think it's either the World Health Organization or the UN defines youth as 18 to 35.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God. Anyway, are we sticking to that definition so that we know, first of all, you know, if you're not, you know, not within that age bracket, if you're, then it's not accessible to you?
So I think that one of the things we need to realize that that's the definition. So the definition is up to 35 years old.
It should be revised because we're still very, very young.
You're young at heart. So as much as possible, that's the definition as to 35 years, trying to help them, trying to build them and grow them. And if you look at the census that was done, it used the same definition to show us the numbers as well. So as much as possible, it's within that. But I think it's important to know that it doesn't mean that if you are above 35 years, there are no resources, or if you have an MSME that is running, there's no resources for you, because I think that government has been able to do a lot of successful interventions in the past and will continue to do so. And even presently, we continue to do a lot. If you look at the Ghana Economic Transformation Program, SME support, government is supporting small and medium enterprises. We've been giving them access to funding. We're going to provide them with technical assistance next year as well to actually go into their businesses, to provide them with support and the resources to grow these businesses so they can also create avenues for employment for other people, especially the youth of the nation.
Okay, so let's say, you know, I've been reading through some of it. You have different categories. There's some for graduates. I'm not sure if there's some for people who have not graduated from university.
I think that one of the things, government has really been thoughtful. And if you remember when the Honorable Minister, Honorable Ofori-Atta, was speaking about the budget, he made it very clear. And I think one thing we need to know about the beauty of the Youth Start program is that it doesn't focus on only one segment of the youth.
Yeah, there are different.
Yes, there are different segments. And I think we've been very thoughtful in bringing that to bear and bringing that at the forefront of even the discussions we've had. So there are different levels. There are those who are in universities or those who are graduated from universities. So the tertiary education, there are different types of tertiary education. There are those who've also graduated from vocational or technical schools who can also benefit. And you also see that there are those who have actually also graduated or left what do you call secondary schools or high schools, or even JHS, right, who also need some form of support. And so there's an intentional effort to look at these different segments and provide targeted interventions to them.
Okay.
And it's all off the back that we need to be cognizant of some of the successes of the programs of the government, which is, if you look at the free SHS, the number of people who got the opportunity to go to school, which is a beautiful thing. It allows them to also have a new outlook on life. So those people would go to universities, some will go to technical and vocational schools, some might not, unfortunately, right? So what do you do with them? How do you provide opportunities for those people? So the YouStart program gives the opportunity for people, right, within different segments, the youth focus, to gain access to opportunities and resources to help build the nation sustainably.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of details, if that's fine with you.
Sure.
So let's say let me see, I'm trying to think, okay, I'm a 23-year-old electrician, for example, and I want to start, something little, getting, a group of my, neighborhood boys who maybe have just finished SHS, and trying to, get a group of people together, to kind of build something, do something. How do I approach, getting involved in this program? I think, and maybe I don't want to talk about the graduates as much because of the level of education, they can read the stuff and figure out, this is what I do,
easier.
So if you can address, that side of things, and then also, let's say there's somebody listening to us who is also saying, okay, this sounds like a good opportunity. Maybe I actually just want to start a factory or open something, get people to come and work. How do I get into that? And then I think, again, if you clarify the age thing for me, because in one of the provisions that USAS has made, there's something about companies. So I think there's 100,000 for companies if you want to get equipment and stuff like that. Must it be a youth-led company or a youth-employed? Did you get what I mean? Company, they're two different things, so that people are quite clear about the target.
Sure. I think that one of the things, and I think the focus of the YouStart program is really looking at the youth.
Okay.
Right? So it's youth-started MSMEs, because there's some youth. I mean, you'd be amazed at some of the wonderful things some of the youth are doing across the nation. And so they might have started a business, they need a little push in terms of access to finance, access to capacity development, to move it to the next level. And so we will provide that kind of support for them. You also have those, as you mentioned, they've gone through technical or vocational school, they have a skill. And we realize that a lot in the work we're doing, that as we travel across the nation, as we go to various districts and towns, there are people who have a skill, right? And they want to use that skill. But to translate it into a business, you need a little bit of support. And what kind of support? Even having the entrepreneurial mindset. You might want to start a business, but where do I even start from? And so that's the kind of support we're going to come in and provide. So providing you with the support in terms of building your capacity, even teaching you about entrepreneurship, even changing your mindset about how you look at your business and building on that. Then moving on from there and saying that I've been able to learn something, I've been able to get the business advice I need. I'm going to start with a group of friends that I have, and then when that happens, I would need access to finance, to buy equipment, to support the work that we do. And so how do I do that? And that's where we come in as well, to provide all of that support. So you'd realize that it's a total continuum of providing support, not only at one stage and leaving it there, but it kind of rolls through to the very end, hand-holding, making sure you're being mentored, making sure we're following up to ensure the businesses are growing successfully, and helping you solve certain challenges that will come along the way. Because we all know if you've done entrepreneurship in some way, shape, or form, there will be challenges, but who do you turn to? So it's very interesting how the intervention is going to happen. But one thing is that we're also going to take it to the doorsteps of the potential beneficiaries. So we're not going to sit at a high level place. We're not going to sit in Greater Accra or Accra and say that I'm going to support only Greater Accra or people in the city of Accra. But we're going to utilize our systems, and I think it's important to note, we've already reached out to some of the assemblies to give our support to come in and set up shop in the districts where we don't have offices. So we have 190 plus offices across the nation. And these offices are accessible to the youth.
Okay.
They're accessible to anyone, and they can walk in, get the needed supports that they want, get the needed information, and then build on it. Besides that as well, once we go live, there will be a technology platform where they can also go on to. And if they can't access it, there will be opportunity to get resources and build on it. So we're going to sensitize and work with the youth associations and youth groups as well. Go down to the level of them so that it's accessible at the district level to the people within the districts and the communities. So it's not so high level or not accessible or attainable, and something they see on TV or something they hear or talk about, but they're not being able to access it.
Okay.
And we've done that before, you know, and our institution and the implementing bodies we have under us actually have the support that they need to build them and grow with them.
Okay, so again, breaking it down to the details, already existing companies, new groups of people, already existing groups, who qualifies?
They all are qualified.
Everybody.
I think we need to realize one thing. If you look at the budget, as I mentioned, the center of it is the youth.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't
what
matter
states per se.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? And a lot of our sensitization would also sensitize and conscientize people to start thinking about business, to start thinking about entrepreneurship, to start building businesses that employ people and employ the youth, to start thinking about how they already have existing businesses and to grow those businesses, to turn them into the future, let's say Dangotes of the world, the future, if you look at Ghana, Kwame Despites of the world, how do you groom these people and prepare them for that future? And that's what the Youth Start wants to do, to start that process and to spark the change and get Ghanaians to rally behind it and see that this is ours and this is how I became this great business in the future.
Okay, so I'm thinking about, you know, this may be a random 19-year-old or 20-year-old SHS leaver who, you know, maybe has saved, let's say he's managed to save maybe about 3,500 cedis, you know. He didn't do too well, so it's thinking, okay, I'm going to have to write WASI again and again, you know, and it's thinking, okay, maybe, you know, my area has a lot of rubbish. I want to buy an Aboboya, you know, and maybe start collecting rubbish, you know, and kind of get into a business like that. Is that something that Youth Start would support? And the technicality, so looking at some of the youth, I mean, in Accra, it's easier to see youth who are much more educated, much more exposed and all of that. Are they going to need to have registered their companies or to have registered themselves as sole? I can't remember what that is, but you know, are those technicalities going to need to be fulfilled for people to access the program?
No, I think it's important to note that they don't need to have filled it to come and partake in the program. And as I mentioned, there are different segments of youth.
Okay.
Besides looking at the youth in terms of those who maybe have some form of education, those who don't have it but are within the youth category, there are those who have also finished university. There's also the category of those who have started their business and those who have not started, and those who are doing it in the informal stage and want to formalize it. So there are different categories to it. So as much as possible, what Youth Start wants to do is to actually make sure that those businesses are running, that those businesses are strong. If you have an idea and you don't know how to take it forward, we come in and provide you with the needed support to move it forward, to actually, as I mentioned, to conscientize you about how to run a business, how to be profitable, how to ensure you're dealing with the various challenges and also becoming successful. So it doesn't, there's no hindrance, right?
Okay.
And so that is why we've also been intentional in how the rollout would be, the implementing partners that would support the program as much as possible. There's a conversation of there's GEA, there's NEIP, there's the universities. So there are a lot of different parties and players.
Maybe we should talk about the rollout and the implement. Maybe if we start talking about that, then it'll be clearer on how the process is going to be like. So do you have all those details already?
So we do to a large extent. I think in the budget, once the budget is finalized,
ends.
the appropriations are all finalized and everything else is done. Then immediately next year, I think the Minister of Finance was very clear in the direction in terms of from March, there's the possibility to even pilot before then if the opportunity comes up, and as much as possible to roll it out. Once that is done, I mean, there's a lot of work that happens in the background, which has been done, some are ongoing, and as much as possible to build the processes so that, as I mentioned, to make it more accessible to as many people as possible. And as we've been talking about, I know one of the fears that you have and a lot of people have is, will I be able to, I live in some place outside of Accra. It could be beyond in Sawom, it could be Takwa, it could be in Bole Bamboy, someplace, right? So how do I access this? And the opportunity to either utilize our business advisory centers, to utilize the business resource centers, to use technology to also reach the people is what we seek and intend to do. And through that process, and before we get there, we would have done our sensitization, done some form of needs assessments, worked with various of some of the association and faith-based organizations as well, because the youth are concentrated and centered around that, so that people know and are able to assess the opportunity.
I mean, that sounds really good. Especially, they're working with the different agencies, because as you were talking and women multitask, so I was listening and also thinking. I met this young girl last week. I think she's about 17, lost both parents. So what she does is sleeps in the church, so she'll kind of hang around, how do I put it? There's no formal support. There's nobody to really, but I mean, she has a passion. She loves to cook, would love to have, some little space, and set up something, little and stuff. And when I hear programs like this, I'm hoping that people like that will be able to have access to. So if this young girl, found her way to one of the centers, she doesn't have anything. Nothing, like nothing. Is you start offering a support system that enables the absolutely we have nothing people, youth, to do some. I don't know if I'm getting.
I know where you're going, and I think that we've been doing that. The past 4 years, we've done that.
Okay.
So I took up an institution with barely anything to move the work we were doing forward. But government was very intentional in really saying that how do we build our youth? How do we build MSMEs? And you would be surprised that we've been able to target over 600,000 people in those years. And it's not in Accra, it's not 600,000 people. It's 600,000 people and businesses across the entire nation that we've provided support to. They're businesses that we've created, right? Over 20,000 plus. Most of them are youth. Even in our CAP business support intervention, 40% of the beneficiaries were youth.
Okay.
So out of the 300,000 people we provided support to, 40% of them were youth. 60+% of them were women. So you realize that the intervention does not isolate and does not neglect or take people out.
Okay.
The intervention is really to get to the people.
Okay.
And we've done it before. And we will do it better. Right? You can only get better and you get bolder at what you're doing. And so as much as possible, it's taking the work we've been doing and actually strengthening it and putting the youth at the center of it.
Okay.
And I said the last time, the youth is our greatest asset. And so how do you support them? So this woman sleeping in the church, and that's why we're bringing the faith-based organizations as well, because they also have access to the youth. They have access to support them and work with government, so that it's not only seen as a government initiative, initiative, but it's seen as a general Ghanaian initiative that focuses on building the youth to help them grow across the nation without being isolated from the program.
Okay. I keep on saying, I love the sound of it, and I'm really hopeful that it would, touch people, because people are struggling, especially the young people. So I saw there was a section of the allocations where, the money kind of gets bigger, so 100,000 to 400,000, and again, another fear that has been expressed is how, I think it's in the Bible or something, how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And so people who are already in a position of goodness on one side will be better able to access. And I know that it also seems like I keep on asking you the same question but in different forms. But I mean, how do you then make yourself eligible to get the most? So I think I'm kind of asking like the backdoor question now, like, how do you create, people are listening to us. You have a group of 15, 20 people, that you can put together. You know that if you could set up something, it would be great. They would work. They would be off the streets and stuff. How do you position yourself so that by March, when this is ready to go, you're in the best place to get the most out of this program?
I think it's, if you pay attention to the interventions we've done across the nation, it hasn't benefited the rich. It has benefited those who actually have ideas and those who need it the most.
Okay.
Right? And that's what we intend to do. And that's the importance of actually the transformation into the Ghana Enterprises Agency.
Yeah.
And the strong push for decentralization with our business advisory centers across the nation so they become one-stop shop for business development. What I always say, and I see in our interventions, is that people always come and say, I'm not sure if I will get it, and so I will not apply.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And that's the challenge. The first challenge is not taking the first bold step.
To apply.
Right? Or asking, or doing it, or seeking it. So the same Bible you quoted also talks about if you seek, you will find.
Of course.
If you ask, you shall be given.
Yeah.
So if you're not asking and you're not seeking, then you're not going to find it, and you're not going to get it.
At all.
And we get a lot of those challenges where people come in and say, oh, I did not hear about it, or I heard about it, I did not believe it, and so I did not apply. But now my neighbor did it, she knows no one, she's received it, and so I want to be part of it. And it's too late, right? So I always tell people, and that's the advice I'm going to give, as much as possible, if you hear of any government intervention, apply for it.
Yeah.
If you think you are, you can get it, you're eligible, if you feel like you deserve it, apply for it. Then worry about everything else later.
After the application.
Right? But if you don't apply for it, or you sit back and say, they already know who they're going to give it to, then you've actually shortchanged yourself because you're not even part of the game. The competition is over. There's a competition. Apply for it. Try and allow people to make decisions. So as much as possible, my advice to people is that go out there, and if the portal's open and you pay attention, apply for it. Put in your best. Put in your best foot forward. Put your best foot forward. Then we will then come in with a team and actually do the assessments and move it to the next level. But don't just sit back and say that it's for. Because think about it. Who knows 1 million people? Do you know 1 million people?
No, I don't.
I don't even think I know 5,000 people.
No.
So yes, so you have to make sure that people are applying, because at least there will be someone in who will be, you have to pay attention to that. And that's my biggest worry, and that's what I sensitize the youth about. Take that bold step. Do it.
Okay, well, take the bold step and do it. So before, people get overly excited. This is not money that's being dashed. So it's loans. Because I was even getting excited, and then
you should get excited.
No, it suddenly just hit me that you have to pay back. It's not free money.
You should get excited about it, and we shouldn't say that because it's not free money, it's not exciting.
Well, it's exciting, but you are mindful.
Because then now you would think about your business idea better. So it is a soft loan, right? It's a soft touch. So we're not trying to break your business. We're trying to grow with you. And actually, it's important to know that it's actually been made a soft loan so that we build the culture of discipline. We build a culture of actually being able to manage the affairs of our finances and to grow it. And I think it's important. You know, one thing I realize in our interventions, those who actually take the soft loans from the institution have this new refined confidence, and it's a form of dignity building that I did it myself.
Yeah.
It was not handed over to me, and that's what we hope to do. We want to build a strong, confident youth that say, they can hit their chest and say,
I did it.
I did this myself. I took out some soft loan, I got support, and I have built this myself from the ground up. So it is not unfortunate, it's a beautiful thing. And psychologically, it builds on your strength, your confidence, your dignity as a human being, that you're not only taking handouts, but you're actually building yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. The only problem is well, I'm not going to get into our educational system, but the only problem is that a lot of our youth are also timid. And so, I mean, and I'm sure you'll factor that into your sensitization. And so there's the fear of failure. There's the fear of owing. You know, I can imagine somebody say, okay, you know what, I have enough, I eat every day, I don't owe anybody, I don't want any problems, you know, and suddenly, okay, I have this soft loan that I have to pay. But there's definitely, I mean, there are those who are outright, you know, but there are definitely people who will have their reservations.
Yes, I think that if you look at it purely from only a financing position, then you have that. So in this whole You Start conversation, I think we haven't even factored, or we haven't talked about it here on this platform, but there are some people who don't need the financing.
They just
and might
need the
only
support.
need the support. They might need the access, right? They might just need the capacity building, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay.
So I think that all of this analysis will be done. You don't automatically get a loan because you don't need it, but you're in the program. But it's built of, maybe I don't need it, and I just want to build this. And so there's a whole mindset shift that the training kind of brings on board. There's also a whole new dynamic of having to go out, because you're going to role play the position. You're going to have the opportunity to see other people at it. You're going to have role models. You're going to have mentors, all of them coming to the table to help and work with you.
How are you putting all of those people together?
We've been working with them. I think the most important thing is that when you design a program, and you design the framework that goes around it, you identify the stakeholders who will build and work with you. And so you build them all into the program and work with them. And then you bring on board various partners who will mentor it. And it's all about planning and actually being disciplined and diligent in implementing the plan you have. We've done certain similar programs as well, which have been very successful. Government, through Ghana Enterprises Agency, has implemented the MasterCard Foundation programs, SNV, GIZ, a lot of interventions. And we've been very intentional in seeing that what is it that the people need and what have people utilized and made them successful. And so we build around it, and then we grow with them as much as possible.
Okay, so apart from the money, there's also the support.
Yes.
There's the mentorship.
Yes.
There's the training. So it's like a 360, you know, we're going to help you succeed at this thing.
That's what we want to do.
You've
got it right.
That's what
we're going to make you succeed, and what will it take? And as I said, it could be money, it could be entrepreneurial support, capacity development, access to regulatory support, and that's what it is. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was invited to a program by a partner, and they were training people, not only specifically youth. They're training about 40 people in advanced cosmetics and, you know, how to design and develop programs and products. And I got there, and it was very interesting, and a lot of them were very excited to see me. I'd never met them before. And out of the 40 people, at least 70% had benefited from our programs, which is amazing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I said to them, why don't you talk about it? Why don't you tell people that if you go to the business advisory centers, you have support, you have access, and it's not only about financing, because people want to always look at you through the lens of financing. But there were people who had been trying to get Food and Drugs Authority certification for years, and they had come to us, and due to our partnership with the FDA, they've been able to, for the first time in many years, get certification for their products. One woman talked about how she's been able to access more markets now. Someone talked about how they've been able to employ more people because they had better certification and now they could sell their products in more shops. They had expanded. So there were beautiful conversations coming out. Some said, oh, I didn't get financing, but that's not what I needed. Some got financing. They said, but we've paid back. So there's a whole lot happening. And so it's not just about that. And now what we are saying is that let's hone down on the youth.
Okay.
Right? And let's build the youth.
Yeah. I'm interested in your partners now because as soon as I heard, you're partners with the FDA, then I got excited because I'm like, okay, so there's really real life support. A lot of times, you have conversations with institutions or people, and those are like, oh, there's support. But we know how Ghana is. We know that there's bureaucracy, there's things that can just tie you, and then So it's exciting here. Okay, if I'm doing this with you and I need support, with how to get my FDA certification, all of that will be made available. So who are some of your other partners?
So I think first we need to disabuse our minds of that. You know how Ghana is.
Yeah, but it is like that.
It is not. I think that for lack of knowledge, some people do perish.
Well, yeah, but then the knowledge is not available to everyone. Because
but you have to seek it. You have to seek it, right?
Yeah.
You need to seek. I think that we need to be proactive as well. I have to be proactive. Sometimes I sit back and say, how am I going to do this? Do I need to pay somebody to do it, or can I go and do it? So I think, one, we need to seek it, and two, we also as institutions have to also provide the information and make it clear. I think youth employment challenges is a global phenomenon. It's not a Ghana specific. And especially also public sector institutions around the world is bureaucratic because of public financial management challenge. There's so many things that you're guarded by. So you have to be structured in that way. So yes, in some institutions, some might be overly bureaucratic, but it's because the system has to make sure that we become more accountable as well. So I think that we need to take our minds off that, because once we keep saying, oh, it's so difficult and hard, then we don't even take the first bold step. So we also have the opportunities to build on things. For the first time in 1 year, over 1,000 products were certified by FDA in partnership with us. That's a lot of products.
Which is good, yeah.
Right? And so if you go to any of our business advisory centers or work with Ghana Enterprises Agency, we have partnership with Food and Drugs Authority. If you're an SME and you register with the Ghana Enterprises Agency as well, you get a discount at the Ghana Standards Authority, and people use it.
Do we need to do all those things? Register with the Ghana Enterprise Agency, go to registrar departments. Are those things requirements? Do we have to do those things?
No, they are not requirements.
Okay.
It's up to you, right?
Okay.
To actually be part of the network of the Ghana Enterprises Agency.
But
if you're not even part of it, and we have general national programs, we put it out there for Ghanaians to do it. And there are people who just walk, and there's not a particular person who has to be part of the network of the Ghana Enterprises Agency. You can just walk into any of the offices. And as I mentioned yesterday's program, one woman said, I didn't know about you. I'd heard from a friend that they had actually received certification through FDA for their food products. So I walked into one, and I also have mine. And for the first time, I've been able to do this.
Yeah.
But if you sit back and you say, oh my goodness, it's such a challenge, it's so bureaucratic, then you're actually doing yourself a disservice. But then the feedback for us is also to try as much as possible to have a very stronger human face to the work we do.
Yeah.
But let's not say, Ghana is hard. Let's try to, because you speak life into what you have. You started with the Bible code.
But Ghana is hard, though.
Ghana is hard.
Ghana is hard.
Well, everywhere is hard.
But that's true. Everywhere is hard. Yeah, everywhere
right?
is,
and it's also easy for some people, right? And it's also good for people, and there's an opportunity for us to work together. And that's why it's important for us to support each other.
Of course.
Right? And that's why these conversations are important. So we bring to light some of the things we're doing. where people can access things
How
and
they
not
can
just say, oh my
access,
goodness, it is hard. It is available.
It's available.
But if you don't go, you can't access
Yeah.
it. You can't also sit at home and say, it is hard.
Yeah, no, you can't. You definitely have to step out. But I'll just say this before I let you go, that I'm looking forward to this. I've had conversations with a lot of different people who are looking forward to this. I met a group of young men who are kind of, okay, yeah, we want to do this. Like,
Great.
So, you know, make sure you ask this question or ask this question, you know, because
Yes.
it's exciting. But I think the education, the sensitization, just like what you said to me this morning, you know, about the fact that these things are available. Sometimes those who really need it don't know.
That's what you think. Maybe they have it, but they don't tell you.
Well,
One thing I've realized is that people don't talk about things as much as they should. So you realize that people get opportunity and they don't talk about it. And that's how we are. You know, we're very, as humans, we just say, okay, let me just do my thing. I've got it. Let me be in my corner.
Yeah,
so as much as possible, we also need people who benefit, and a lot of people benefit, to come out and share.
And share their
And
stories.
share it as well, so that people will know. So it's about sharing. Like this whole program, this Youth Start is sharing and caring and building a strong national economy. For us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us
you.
this morning. I'm sure we'll have you on in the next few months as this, you know, starts to be rolled out before March. Our guest, Kosi Yankee, CEO of Ghana Enterprises Agency. We're taking a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about CSIR and its Actuate initiative. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so now we're going to talk to our friends from CSIR, and they have a new initiative. It's called Actuate. Sounds very exciting. I have Senior Research Scientist, Dr. Richard Baiche. Okay, I'm not butchering any names today. Dr. Richard Baiche and Imoro Suleimana. Okay, I got that one. Head teacher, Umanana. Head teacher of, what's the name of the school?
Umar bin Khattab Islamic Basic School.
That's the one. Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, so in the first place, let's just do a quick run through of CSIR and exactly what it is that CSIR does.
Yeah, CSIR is a Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. And the Institute of Industrial Research is one of the 13 institutes of the Council. And we do research and development in the area of renewable energy, especially for solar and then biogas.
Okay.
So we also do research in sanitation and waste management. You know the problem we have with sanitation. We also do engineering, design, and fabrication. And then we do research in material sciences.
Okay.
We do a lot of repair work of scientific equipment.
Okay.
And then we calibrate them as well.
Okay, that's
It is
interesting.
worth mentioning that we are among the few people who have been accredited to actually do scientific instrument calibration in Ghana.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so we have
Okay.
a calibration lab that we calibrate scientific instruments.
Instrument.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. But okay, so let's talk about Actuate. So what's Actuate? I like the name. It's very catchy. Actuate.
Yeah.
What's it about?
Actuate is actually an acronym. It's a very long name. Maybe I may have to read because it's very difficult.
That's fine.
To keep it in
your
Yes. It's accelerating the adoption of circular sanitation demonstration systems for improved health outcome. That is Actuate.
Actuate.
Yes.
Accelerating the adoption of circular sanitation demonstration systems for improved health outcomes.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah, actually, it's a research project that seeks to demonstrate by building a biogas plant
Okay.
in 2 places. One is in Nigeria, University of Benin,
Okay.
Nigeria. Then the other one is in my colleague's school, Omar bin Khattab Islamic Basic School at
Okay.
Madina Zongo. So it's a UK.
Oh, that's my hood. That's
Yes.
my neighborhood.
Yes, so it's a UK research-funded project. The project fund is about 700,000 pounds
Okay.
for the two locations. And basically, the idea of this project is to build a biogas plant, which is very effective and sustainable.
Okay, so it's a waste management thing, isn't it?
Yes, it's a waste management system.
Okay, so let me talk to Imoro, because your school is benefiting. Well, have you started?
Yes, the construction component has been completed.
Okay.
And feeding of the organic material has also taken place. It's just left with the gas to come on board, which we are expecting in some less than 2 weeks' time.
Okay, so you have a show lab.
Yes, please.
And your students are involved in
Yes,
all of it. What's
yes.
that been like for them?
Oh, it's been interesting. I mean, most of them haven't seen equipments, pictures of equipment, science-related apparatus in textbooks. Now have the feel of same. I mean, they now use some of those laboratory equipments for laboratory purposes.
Okay.
So it's been exciting. I mean, to the students. I mean, for now.
For now. So let me come back to you, Doug. So this biogas, is it a plant? It's like a plant, isn't it?
Yes, it's a plant that is built to treat organic waste to produce biogas.
Okay, so
And
where
then-
are we getting the waste from?
Yeah, we get the waste from our homes,
Okay.
especially the degradable waste.
So like
Our
food waste
yes,
and
vegetable waste,
Okay.
and alike.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a collection system or
Yes, we have put up a very effective collective system where we train the school children on how they do waste segregation. You know, in our environment, we always mix our waste,
yeah, we just put everything else
which is
together.
not good for the plant. The plant actually uses only organic waste because
Okay.
we have living organisms in that plant.
And okay.
So they feed on the organic and then they generate the biogas and then the biofertilizer.
Okay, so I'm sure in your show lab you must have like a little prototype of the whole thing to be able to show the students. So what's the process? So you get the waste, it comes into the thing.
Maybe
like
if I can elaborate on
Yeah.
that, the whole idea is we wanted to actually use the plant as a demonstration of how we can train our children on waste management.
Okay.
So when we generate the gas is stored in a bag. And that bag, from the bag, the gas is transported to the show lab. And the idea of
Wait, okay. I think you're saying when we generate the gas, how are we generating the gas?
Yes, you see, the organic material is put in a biodigester. So microorganisms, living things will feed on it.
Okay.
So the output or the byproduct is a gas.
And then you catch the gas.
We catch the gas and
into a
store
bag.
it in a bag.
Okay, not a olonkaraba.
No.
Like
no,
a proper bag. Okay. So
we
put
call
it
it
in the
biogas
bag.
bag. We call it a biogas
Okay.
bag. Then we store it in that bag. You see, the idea is that as you keep on feeding the plant, you continuously generate the gas. So you need to store that gas in a containment.
Okay.
Then after that, then you use the gas. So the
Okay.
third stage is to use the gas in the show lab.
Okay.
That is what we have done. So in the show lab, you actually have a biogas stove.
Okay.
It's a specialized stove that utilizes biogas for cooking.
Is it cheaper? Is it cheaper than LPG?
Yeah, the biogas is cheaper than the
Okay.
LPG because you are generating it
It's-
on site
Okay.
using waste.
Okay.
You understand? And it's
Okay.
sustainable
Okay.
because it's coming from renewable source.
Okay. Okay.
The LPG, you know where it comes from.
Yeah, of course.
So,
So this is at your school at the moment.
Yes, please.
Okay, so what's the plan once it's fully set up? What's the plan going to be for it? Other schools can come. Are you going to teach, other schools, other children? What are the benefits, for you, for your school, for the children?
I mean, in the first place, as we now have the lab, which most schools, business schools do
Don't
not have.
yeah.
So right now it is helping our children to gain laboratory knowledge. It is also helping our children to have positive scientific attitudes.
Yeah.
They will now have the feel of the equipments and material which they normally see as pictures in the textbooks. Now they are now using them, manipulating them to be able to appreciate what the whole scientific experiment is about, and then all of that. So other children have even started already benefiting. I mean, through CSR, there was a project that took about 5 basic schools, I mean, outside UBH, I mean, to also get into training them about the waste management, segregation, and the like. So about 30 children from the 5 basic schools, making up about 150 children were brought to the school. I mean, they were taken through the biodigester design, building, and then the process by which the waste is fed and then generating the gas into the show lab. And they're also taken through in the show lab how the laboratory, I mean, experiment is going to pan out. So it's open, I mean, for schools, not just within Lankwantana Madina municipality, but even outside, for them to come and then learn.
Yeah.
CSR and Lancaster, I mean, the actual project is not only that of also UBH. There's also a project that is taking place at Egbebesi.
Okay.
I mean, so just last month, 10 students of the school in Egbebesi were brought to UBH for them to go through some laboratory,
This, and it's important for waste management. Is this the next thing for waste management in Ghana? And that's my last question.
Yes. I think that is the way forward, because this project actually tries to inculcate the habit of good sanitation and waste management in students. You see, so by so doing, we'll be able to catch them young and make sure that they practice good waste management.
Okay, yeah. Sounds really good. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let you go. But just before you go, maybe 30 seconds, is there anything that you'd like to say or you'd like to add, you know, about the project?
I mean, we are excited that the project has come, and then, I mean, as a school, we are beneficiary, the entire Medina community, making up of chiefs, imams, the youth have all embraced it, and then we are excited that, I mean, through Global Challenge Research Fund, I mean, the funders, Lancaster University as managers of the project, CSR who have built and then to manage the project alongside the school. We are excited that we are in this partnership, and then we hope that the project will be of huge benefit, not just to Umar bin Atta Islamic Basic School, but entire country. And we are hopeful that the project will see a replication in other schools, I mean, not just in Medina, but in other parts of the country.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really grateful for your time. I'll pop by and have a look at it. I don't live too far from there, so it would be very exciting to see it. Thank you so much for that.
Welcome.
All right. Well, that's it for the AM show today. Thank you to everyone who stayed tuned in, and of course to producers, directors, lights, camera, action, everyone. We've had a great morning. Really excited about some of the stuff we've talked about. But a happy birthday to our friend Roxanne Nelson Dafia Metbo, MP for South Day. Also a very happy birthday to Kwabna Osei Moreno, Kaswa Iron City, Golden Roses FC, football. Okay, Echo. It's from Echo, Kobe, Raf Mayweather, and the guys. And if today's your birthday, well, a happy birthday to you. All right, we'll be back tomorrow morning a little before 6 a.m. Have a good day. Stay safe out there. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and drive safely. See you tomorrow.